and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Hey kids, are you excited for another issue of Youngblood Strikefile? You're lying! No one is ever excited about anything Youngblood related. Here we are again with the next generation of heroes and their spin-off book that's supposed to be giving some focus on individual members, and a lot of it is just action scene, conspiracy theory bullcrap about AIDS, action scene, something okay, action scene. A lot of these guys are actually very unlikable, but some very young teenagers probably think this is extremely cool, action scene. Yeah, I'm being hyperbolic when I say no one is excited about Youngblood. Obviously, the series still has its fans. I don't know what they see in it, but personal preference and all. It's just my personal preference is that this is garbage. Those of you watching this on a compilation later will keep being reminded this, but we do the annual Youngblood review to commemorate how Atop the Fourth Wall started, as a text review on a blog, with Youngblood #1 being the inaugural eviscerating. I have definitely improved since then, but Youngblood has not, and we have looked at a lot of Youngblood by this point. The last issue saw two tales, one focusing on Bad Rock's early days and getting recruited by Youngblood, and the other about Masada having to keep a racist demagogue, a thinly veiled stand-in for the real-life Louis Farrakhan, from being assassinated. Not the worst issue by far, but not anything that great. Will we be getting something decent this time? Nope! Let's dig into Youngblood Strikefile #7 and see what familiar hell it has for us this time.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man, punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara, ghosts, gods, a universe in flux. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
The cover is... okay. I'm actually going to be a little nice about this one. Yes, it is just a generic shot of a member of Youngblood, Die Hard once again, in all his over-muscled, glaring, too detailed, bulky, armored... Well, glory is the wrong word, but you get what I mean. However, I will say that it's not entirely boring by virtue of something different. The energy building up in his hand, all the little hand-drawn particle effects as they come together. I actually think that's kind of cool. It doesn't fix the rest of the cover, but just that one thing that's different from so many of these other dull shots of Youngblood posing in some nondescript gradient or tech base or whatever is enough to elevate the cover. I will grant you that, cover artist Richard Horry. I especially give you credit that this deadly, dangerous, powerful energy buildup is pink.
Too much pink energy is dangerous.
Like most other Strikefile issues, we've got two stories in this, with the first, as the cover implied, being focused on Die Hard. We open his story on board the space station Prometheus, where we see that indeed he's wearing the weird armor he had on the cover. The things that only shield his arms and legs, but not his torso. And I guess a front flap of armor for his crotch, which, as we know from long ago, is one of his most deadly of weapons. We're opening slightly in media res here, where things have gone badly on the station. Two scientists are talking to him. Die Hard, I'm warning you. The specimen can't be harmed. That's a direct order. Shut up, Lansing. The government is to blame for the deaths of those men.
I'm the government. I'm the government. I'm the reason nothing works.
I'm not gonna let your specimen hurt anyone else. I'm gonna write such a stern letter to it that it'll have to back down, all while I continue to fund it and vote in support of it. Die Hard, the nuclear reactor's failsafes are offline. If the core is exposed during re-entry, it could contaminate the atmosphere. Everyone on Earth could be poisoned. Then they'd be radioactive! That can't be good! Feels appropriate for an episode like this that I'm making a crap ton of callback jokes. Anyway, their only chance of stopping the nuclear Armageddon is to eject the station's core manually, which will not be easy for Die Hard to do while having to contend with the specimen. As he flies off, Die Hard dictates a log entry to start getting us up to speed on what the hell's going on. Die Hard personal log entry. Time, 2400 hours. Wait, no, never mind. The clock has just been blinking that ever since we had a brownout. I was lied to from the beginning about this mission. Didn't they care about the lives that were at stake up here?
No.
Secretary Keever ordered me to Prometheus. He said some highly sensitive project materials needed babysitting. I saw it as a good opportunity to test the new Deep Space Die Hard unit the lab boys had cooked up. It's a shame that the Voyager Die Hard unit never lived up to its potential. He says that the project lead was an old friend of his, Dr. Rachel Hawkins, and we get a proper flashback. We see a bunch of weird alien boxes with webbing on them. Or at least it's shaped like webbing, kind of like all the weird net patterns we had in the Bad Rock miniseries. We discovered them 6 months ago on a derelict alien vessel. We called dibs. They're apparently a bunch of alien sarcophagi, very old ones, and the language is a primitive form of Catalan, the same race as Youngblood member Combat. Remember him? He was the dude from a couple issues ago who said he liked to torture small animals. Anyway, Secretary Keever also sent in a General Lansing to open the tombs up, and apparently nobody actually thought to call the Catalan who was on their payroll to see what he thought about this or translations of any of the writing. As such, Die Hard contacts him and explains the situation, showing an image of a crest that was on the tomb. And surprise, surprise, Combat says they need to destroy the sarcophagi right away. Use any means necessary. That crest is the seal of... by the ghost of Chrome. Carnge lives! Okay, so there are 3 different ways you can read that. Like how I just did, Carnge, which is honestly the most normal. The second is Carnegie, so I can joke that Combat hates classical music. Or the third... Carnage. And you may not have known this, but there was already a pretty popular comic book character by that name in the 90s. Not that it matters much anyway, because we all know what his name is really about. Because poor literacy is cool. Unsurprisingly, Carnage escapes his sarcophagus and began slaughtering the scientists. Die Hard had apparently tried to stop him, but just ended up getting his primary power generator damaged. He's stronger than me, and he knows I'm wounded. If he thinks like Combat, he'll be patient and stick to the shadows. Then attack without warning. Okay, without warning must mean something different in Youngblood, because in that very panel, he is attacking while roaring his own name, which is in fact a warning. Carnage is stronger, but Die Hard is equipped with liquid helium-3. The coldest substance known to Earth, according to him. I tried to look this up. Helium-3 is a real thing, and apparently has been used in cryogenics, not freezing people, just studying things at very low temperatures. But the rest of this seems dubious. To freeze his arm, then uses a harmonic resonator to shatter said arm. Sensors tell me his arm's already regenerating, but the pain ought to keep him busy long enough for me to get to the reactors. And I don't just do that to his head or his torso, because shut up. But yeah, he reaches the core and interfaces with the controls, pushing to ignite the reactor until it self-destructs. Carnage recovers and attacks again, forcing Die Hard to deploy his Bloodhounds, a group of robot drones that zap at Carnage for a bit, before the thing grabs, a stick from somewhere and impales Die Hard with it. They're on a space station. Where did the big wooden stick come from? I admit, I'm guessing it's made of wood because it's brown and stick-shaped. It could be a scrap of metal from something, but still. In any event, as a reminder, Die Hard is an android, so his head pops off and flies away, not unlike Overt Kill from a few issues ago, and yet still less silly-looking. Strikefile is only 11 issues long. Why have we now had 2 ejector heads in this series like they were incredible crash dummies? In any case, the head flies out of the station and it goes badoom. I was confused by this for a moment. I thought Die Hard had killed the remaining humans on the station. I went back and I thought that maybe Die Hard was leaving Prometheus Station to go to a different one where Carnage was unleashed. But no, the flashback showed him going to Prometheus first. It was then that I realized what we actually saw on the first page wasn't Die Hard leaving, but an escape pod containing the 2 humans. And look, this is a case where obviously it's my fault for not comprehending what the art was telling me, But in my defense, the fact that they were getting into a pod and Die Hard was ejecting them was not clear, especially since it was mostly in the background and we were rushing things by having most of the page made up of Die Hard and his stupid armor. That's the focus of the page, so I didn't notice that that's what was happening. Given Die Hard was talking about leaving and going to go deal with the Corps, I thought that was him launching out. But yeah, I'll admit my mistake here. But I still feel like that could have been better shown in the page and not make me wonder if Die Hard had just killed some people by accident. Die Hard does have a little problem because it's not like he can maneuver much in this form and he won't survive re-entry, so he has to try to download himself into a new body. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you, buddy?
I am Legion, and I am awesome.
He's worried because he's never had to do it from such a great distance before and thinks it may not work, but concludes his log saying that if he dies, then at least he'll have been a good soldier like he always wanted. And of course he survives, arriving at Secretary Keever's office at the Pentagon in a new body to demand an explanation for what the hell happened. Die Hard, the government had to open the tomb. There was an inscription, a warning that read, "Here lies the most destructive force ever conceived." And as the government, we took that as a challenge. Thanks to Photon, we discovered that the sarcophagi weren't from Catella, they're from the Kadim, a savage offshoot race that left Catella generations ago. Can you imagine? Karnj, a living Kadim, in the hands of our enemies? And that's why we had to let him out instead of just blowing him up. We're so smart! Apparently these details were withheld from the scientists working on it. Though that does make me wonder who reported all this then. And of course this endangered a lot of people's lives. Keever says that Die Hard was their insurance and he paid off. It was just a mission, Die Hard. Nothing personal. That's where you're wrong, Keever. You've made this personal. This isn't over. It's not even close. Well, yeah, I mean, you're far away now in my very oddly large office. In fact, do I even have a desk? In this panel, it looks like I'm sitting on the floor. The comic includes a poster insert of Youngblood that I don't think is that great. I mean, as a group shot, it's fine, but there's so much empty space on the right. I think this was made for promotional art where there's supposed to be text all over those spots, but without it, it's just a lot of nothing. Anyway, let's move on to our second story, where we open in Dublin and see Troll. He's in a bar telling a joke to a bunch of Norwegians and actually speaking the language. So then the priest turns to the pagan, because they're the only two left on the dinghy, right?
You know, the gospel speaks of losers like you.
A waitress comes up asking if they need anything, but he tells her to hold it while he finishes the joke. The priest says, "If that was a reindeer, then I'm a spotted yak!" I have to deal with you for 11 more pages. And just to prove what a likable character Troll is, he then grabs the waitress with both hands, one on her ass, causes her to spill the drinks she was carrying, and then claims he was telling the Norwegians that the two of them are an item. She proceeds to slap him, but then he claims it's okay that he's sexually harassing her because it's St. Patrick's Day, and in this place, the Shamrock Tavern, tradition demands that any woman standing under a big stained glass four-leaf clover in the tavern has to kiss anyone who asks for one. So pucker up, darling!
I've actually gone ahead and given it a great deal of thought, but I'm afraid I'm going to very politely have to tell you to blow it out your ass.
Unless, that is, you want me to inform the Norwegians about this quaint local custom. And now threatening her with repeated sexual harassment. Hey, Troll, I'm gonna buy the next round, and I want you to try this new drink I've invented. It's called Broken Glass. Can you guess what the primary ingredient is? She agrees out of fear, but thankfully a group of people smash through the ceiling to murder him before this can go through. It's three short guys, one wielding a Gatling gun, one dressed like Green Arrow, and another is a ninja. They say they've been waiting for 100 years for him to return to Ireland, but he doesn't remember them, thinking they're the Three Musketeers. Troll evades the Gatling gun and grabs some pool balls, throwing them all at the Gatling gun wielder, who identifies himself as Cormac the Cannon. However, to demonstrate how good he is, Cormac uses a handgun to shoot down the balls in numerical order. Maybe it's a bad idea to make your villains cooler and more charming than the dipstick you have as the main character. Next up is the ninja. An Irish one at that. Oh goody, now this book is reminding me of All-Star Batman and Robin. Truly, this comic is a confluence of the best sequential art I've had to cover over the last 18 years. Troll tries to use a pool cue while spouting hilarious one-liners, but it gets cut in half, instead moving to guard himself with a chair. The ninja cuts his name into the chair. Brendan the Blade. The Green Arrow dude must be Legolas since he's soon rapid-firing arrows at Troll again and again, having about as much luck as Cormac. He's Angus the Archer, and Troll tries to flee the bar, but they threaten the life of the waitress, who got a bunch of alcohol spilled on her and thus is a bit flammable. Aw, guys, you actually had me rooting for you until now. I mean, I'm not gonna start rooting for Troll, just the waitress, but still. Troll surrenders and wants to know who these guys are. They call themselves the ex-cons. No, not former convicts, former leprechauns. Apparently 100 years ago, Troll was able to steal their crock of gold and they lost their magical powers. And their ability to aim, I guess. Since they just want their crock of gold back, Troll says that the Norwegians can take them right to it. The Norwegians have trouble understanding at first, but once they mention a ship and crock of gold, they take the three right to their boat. Glad I can make things right, guys!
Nothing was ever all right again.
And so our comic ends with the revelation that the name of the Norwegians' boat is the SS Crock of Gold. So Troll technically fulfilled their desire. The waitress says that it surely won't be another 100 years for them to return, but Troll is confident he won't see them. Well, these expedition parties to the North Pole can turn tragic, Molly. Especially when there are 3 extra mouths to feed. And say they should eat you, but I suspect you somehow have negative nutritional value, like sentient rot or something. This comic sucks! So here's me being honest about this. The Die Hard story is not the worst tale Youngblood has done. It actually shows off several cool weapons that Die Hard had, the threat is a real one, and while it's an over-muscled fight scene, as a fight it's not the worst implemented, and we actually get backgrounds and a sense of movement and flow to it. It's not great, but it's better than how Liefeld would do it. It's just the problem is that we see this so much in Youngblood, especially against so many nondescript enemies like Carnage, that it is really boring and feels like a big so what. We've seen this sort of thing much worse, but there's not enough there for me to care about it for more than I would prefer Earth not get nuked. Artistically, Jay Manor actually made me realize a big problem with it when he made the title card for this episode. Die Hard covers so much of every panel he's in that it's distracting from anything else going on. It doesn't help that his outfit is so colorful while everything else is so drab and washed out. Sure, it's his story, so he should be the focus, but everything else but him isn't given as much attention as it should. And then there's the Troll story. The art is by Jeff Matsuda, whose style would get much better and more stylized in the future, though I admit I'm not really a fan of it. But this early stuff is just following in an ugly early image style reminiscent of Rob Liefeld, just more detailed and actually featuring backgrounds and different facial expressions. Everything is just unpleasant to look at, though the writing is really where the unpleasantness reigns. I hate Troll already for being an odious comedic character who we're supposed to be finding endearing in his grossness, but no, he's just gross, and he continues to be gross in the story, with his only redeeming quality that he wasn't willing to let the waitress get set on fire. The waitress he was perfectly happy to sexually assault earlier. It's supposed to be funny, but instead it just makes me wish the 3 former leprechauns had succeeded in killing him. The action is at least better paced than in the Die Hard story, with some actual characterization and setup, but I don't like the setup, so it just puts me in a bad mood for the rest. It is technically better than the Die Hard story, but only in the technical sense. The content just makes me wish there were more boring action scenes instead. Next time, back to the Patreon-sponsored extravaganza, as we take a look at an issue of Marvel's What If? What if the Marvel superheroes lost Atlantis Attacks?
That comic book
got me behind the 8-ball, Porthos? Well, here's where I turn the tables on you. Pool tables, that is.
Shut up!
Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Fourth Wall. Thanks for watching.